Welcome back to sgCarMart Reviews. Today we have a new Škoda. It is the Scala. Now, this Scala shares a lot of similarities to the Kamiq crossover that you might have seen earlier on, reviewed by Julian. The Škoda Scala is priced from $123,900 to $140,900. The 1.5 litre TSI engine produces 148 brake horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque. The 7-speed DSG transmission brings the car from 0 to 100 km per hour in 8.3 seconds. For more details on the Škoda Scala or any other car, head on to sgCarMart.com to help you make the smart choice on your next car. This car is a hatchback, of course, and it comes with 3 trims, from the Ambition, Style, as well as the top of the line Monte Carlo. Here we have the Style, which pretty much gets everything from safety assistance features to LED headlamps and tail lamps and bigger wheels. These are 18 inches. This might be the best spec to get the Scala in. Now, this car is technically battling with the likes of, say, the Volkswagen Polo and the Seat Ibiza, small hatchbacks. But this is riding on the same platform as them, an MQB A0 platform, but this is stretched. So technically this can fight in terms of proportions and size to the likes of the Volkswagen Golf. There's a lot of good things about the Scala, which I will share in a bit, so stay tuned. At the back, like I mentioned, you do have LED tail lights as well as dynamic turn indicators, which I think many of you guys like for some reason. At the back, it does look good. I do like this whole glass trim piece which extends all the way across here. It looks quite unique. Of course, some of you already know what Scala means. It means stairs. Great. So, the boot is 467 litres big. It is quite a significant size, but it does fall short when it comes to length, as you can tell with the trolley. But it does come with some Škoda's simply clever features, such as hooks, as well as a boot floor that you can lower if you need more space or if you need to hide certain things. Okay, let's talk about the back seats. At the back, there is a lot of space. A lot of space, actually. As you can tell, I am quite happy here because there's a lot of headroom, there's a lot of knee room, there's a lot of wiggle room. It works out very well. And the front seat is set to my comfortable driving position, and I'm just under 1.8 meters tall. And I sit in a very relaxed position up front. But it works out so well here. I am very impressed because this car is technically a small hatchback. It's supposed to fight the likes of the Volkswagen Polo, like I mentioned earlier. But here, there is a significant amount of space, partly because it is a stretched MQB A0 platform. At the back, you do have amenities such as air conditioning vents as well as ISOFIX points. And if you are relegated to the middle seat, there is nothing much to complain about. It is quite good, this car. It is quite impressive if you have a small family, or rather a normal sized family. It works out very well here. So, front seats. Up front, if you are used to cars from the Volkswagen group, you will be very surprised here. This interior looks very, very different. I mean, just from the materials alone, as well as the dashboard layout and the steering wheel, for example, the car feels really very different and very Škoda-like. If you look at the steering wheel, the style is different. You have gaps here, you have these roller dials, and the fact that you have a gap here, so it's basically a steering wheel which is very strange, but it's quite special, isn't it? You know, at least there's some uniqueness when it comes to Škoda now with this steering wheel. Elsewhere, you have the usual stuff. You have an 8-inch infotainment display. Of course, if you get the Monte Carlo, you get a bigger display, but this works out very well. It does come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and although it's still wired, you have to get a USB-C port or C wire, but it works out very well. If you actually own the car, you just have to end up with a wire. You just have to buy one. And of course, this virtual cockpit. It is very easy to use. There are a couple of styles which you can slowly sort of go around and check it out. Very easy to use in general, but there is one thing which I felt is sort of a letdown. It's the air conditioning controls. Now, As you can tell here, it looks quite simple. You have two knobs to control dual zone as well as a few other buttons. But if you notice, there is no fan speed control here, even though you can see the fan speed. If you actually want to change that, you have to press menu and touch a screen to do that, which I think is just a bit counterintuitive, especially from a car like a ŠKODA, because it's supposed to be very usable. This is just an extra step. I know people will just get used to it, especially if you like to keep your aircon in auto. It works out, but for me it's just, why did they do that? It's just a bit unnecessary. But of course there are other features like wireless charging, a lot of space to put your stuff. It works out as a very unique and quite usable interior still. And let's find out how this car does on the road. First off, the ŠKODA SCALA is quite enjoyable to drive. It isn't because it's fast or anything like that. It is because it is easy to drive. And I like that a lot. The steering wheel is nice and light. It is quite easy to see out of, but I do notice that the rearward visibility is not that great if you look through this rear view mirror. Whereas these mirrors are quite big. They do come with blind spot monitoring in the Style trim. And of course, if you want to turn around and check your blind spots, you can. Side mirrors are quite big. Now, one thing to note though, like I mentioned, blind spot monitoring, is that this car does come with a suite of safety assistance features. It does come with adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist, among other things. Like you have your rear traffic alert and front assist, which is more useful in back-to-back traffic or if you're reversing. In general, the safety systems in ŠKODAs, especially the SCALA, are very easy to use and are very intuitive, and they do not interfere with your driving. A lot of other systems, they tend to sort of beep and shout at you and try to keep the car as straight on a path as possible in the lane, which gets quite annoying, especially when you're sort of leaning over out of the lane and you're quite focused, but the car tends to want to pull you back. Now, throughout my journey, usually I rarely even get the safety assistance features kick in. That is a good thing, because usually it gets in the way of driving, but here in the ŠKODA SCALA, as well as the calming, it does very well. I like it a lot. Doesn't take away the joy of driving this car. Very good. Now, speaking of driving itself, the SCALA is indeed quite comfortable. The suspension is nice and supple. It is set up to be comfortable, which is very important. Some manufacturers, especially more premium makes such as BMW and Mercedes, try to make their cars a bit too sporty, which really you don't want that. You want something which will just sit on the highway or pockmarked roads and not really have an issue. Here, it will do quite well, this ŠKODA SCALA. One thing to note though is road noise. You do catch quite a bit of it. I have a feeling it might be because of the tires alone. So if you get a ŠKODA SCALA and swap out the tires for quieter ones, which aren't as grippy, it might work out pretty well. Let's talk a bit about performance. This car has a 1.5 litre TSI engine, the only engine option available, and it makes 148 brake horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque. Now, if you're not interested in performance, there is a very important point. This car, even though it's a 1.5 litre engine, is in the Cat B category because it makes 148 brake horsepower. That is very important because, as you can tell, COE prices, especially for Cat B, is rising. We are seeing one of the highest rise in the last 4 or 5 years. So this is quite significant when it comes to price. Now, performance is more than adequate. 148, 250 Newton meters of torque. And if you're not used to a TSI engine and a DSG transmission pairing, you will find this quite sprightly, which is a good thing. Oh dear, it's raining. So, is the ŠKODA SCALA a will buy, a won't buy, or go try? Well, for me, it is a will buy. I think the ŠKODA SCALA proves that you can get a lot of car for your money, and at about $120,000, you can get the Ambition trim, and that should do well as a small little hatchback which can still bring your family around. And of course, if you're looking for a crossover, the Kamiq does very well also. I do like that car quite a bit. This car proves, especially in Style and even the Monte Carlo trims, that you do not have to pay a lot of money to get features. You get lane keep assist, side assist, adaptive cruise control, among other things, in the ŠKODA SCALA as well as the Kamiq, when other premium brands, the brands that you expect these features to come as standard, cost way more and they don't have them. So this car works out quite well for those of you guys who are looking to upgrade and get something a little bit bigger from your usual Honda Jazz and those kind of cars. This does very well. You should check it out. And yeah, pretty much the ŠKODA SCALA is a will buy. And if you want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye. It is raining, which is good news, which means the traction control will be turned off. Traction control deactivated. Yes!